This is Red Moon role-playing.
Let's cut immediately to your next avenue of investigation, which, as we have discussed a little bit off mic, is going over to the apartment of one Christophe Laveau, a man we've heard a lot about, but haven't yet met in person. And Laveau's apartment is in a fairly newish Art Deco build in the Montmartre district. And in fact, it's on a very familiar street. It's at number 12, Rue Bachelet. And of course, it's only when you approach and realise that you recognise this area quite well, you realise it's practically opposite the home of Dr. Allard, which is surely not a coincidence. Are you planning to... Well, of course, this being Paris, you have to get past the old lady who is the, concierge at the ground floor. But then you can make your way up the stairs to Laveau's place. Are you going to make a sort of bold entrance rapping on the door, or are you going to try something more circumspect? How do you think you'd handle this?
Well, we don't necessarily want to make him suspicious. That he's a slippery fellow who's certainly been involved in this in various ways. He might have done something quite bad, but it won't help us if he immediately realizes that we know that. So perhaps try to play it quite cool and polite. I looked at the others to see if this approach is supported by them as well.
Yeah, I think that we should definitely be a little bit more chill and not give too much away. Because if this guy is not on the up and up, we don't want him to turn on us or freeze out and give us no information.
Certainly sounds like a reasonable approach to me.
All right, then. Well, you knock on his front door, and Laveau answers. He's wearing a smoking jacket and a cravat, and he's pretty tall, in his early 30s. Quite handsome. Fairly smug demeanour as well. And you can introduce yourselves, I suppose, however you wish. Anything reasonable, he's willing to let you in and have a talk. And his place is pretty well appointed as a bachelor pad. Tasteful, I suppose. Tasteful furnishings is the way to describe it, although it's not a huge place. And he has you sit down, and he says, well, so how can I help you?
Well, thank you for giving us your time, Monsieur Laveau. Well, you see, we're not just here to see your lovely apartment here, but we're actually looking for someone that we know that you have spent some time with. Chantal Lenoir.
Ah, Chantal. Well, you needn't be coy. Chantal and I have had a fling off and on for a while. I think that's an open secret.
It certainly is.
But I can't say I've seen Chantal for a while. I was supposed to meet her last weekend at the La Cleivre cottage, but I stood her up. I had other fish to fry. She hasn't called me since then. I think she might be a little angry, I'm afraid.
I see. And I'll look to Genevieve and Terence to see if they want to interject.
I don't seem too keen to interject. I'm more interested in paying attention to our surroundings, to Monsieur Laveau himself, of course, and just keeping an eye on the doors and windows, just in case.
You must have a way of contacting her, outside of, going to her house or to her husband. You have a way of speaking with her, leaving her a message?
Well, of course I can send her a telegram or a letter to the house. I don't think old man Lenoir goes through her correspondence. And of course we often meet up at the tennis club or the Café de Flore. But as I say, I haven't seen her for quite a while. Why is it that you're looking for her exactly? Has something happened?
Well, you see, she's missing. No one's heard from her. And people are starting to think that maybe someone has done something to her. Perhaps someone who was having an affair with her. I say, sort of threateningly, trying to see if I can somehow intimidate him into spilling the beans.
If anyone has caused her any harm, and then he opens a cigarette case and lights one and offers you all cigarettes as well. And he says, well, it certainly wasn't me. Chantal and I weren't perhaps reaching the natural conclusion of our relationship. You know, I did consider asking her to divorce David and marry me once. She has plenty of money, but there are easier ways to get money. So, no, I'm afraid I can't help you.
That is strange, no? Going from a relationship where you're ready to marry someone and so quickly being ready to, it is just the end.
I think if you spend more time in Paris, you'll find it's not as strange as all that. It wouldn't surprise me if she's gotten into some drama with those old spiritualists she used to hang around with across the street at the doctor's house. I found her reading those mumbo-jumbo books again. She was starting to talk about astrology and all that kind of nonsense again. I think that's why I was starting to get rather bored, if I'm honest. It was, I didn't mind that set before the war. I'd meet up with them in the neighbourhood after their seances and grand experiments, but it's really not for me. The whole thing is just... Oh, wait, do you... You know about the so-called doctor, right?
No, please enlighten us. I am clearly lying.
He might suspect it as well. He has the soupçon of a smile at one corner of his mouth. He takes a leisurely drag on the cigarette. He says, well, this Dr. Allard is quite rather a fun character. You see, before the war, he was the, how to put it, something of a pharmacist to the stars, you could say. He, whatever medication you wanted, he could get it for you. And, then it took an interesting turn. He started to form this kind of spiritualist circle. The socialites were very into it for a time. Chantal got very into it. She even got a tattoo of their little group, the circle with a triangle. Preposterous. And, yes, it was quite the rage right up until, the hostilities. And I think everything rather fragmented. They were turned on one another and split apart as they tried to find their place somewhere safe under the new regime.
Did she ever mention anyone that she had turned against or turned against her?
She did have a rival back when the group was still going. Sort of this rather mawkish girl from the country, a nurse, I think. Her name was Elise. And, she'd sort of climbed her way up into the doctor's circle. I think Chantal considered her of an inappropriate class for that kind of thing. But Elise was quite a favourite of the doctor's, although something happened. I think perhaps Chantal organised an ostracism. Yeah, perhaps. She seemed quite triumphant. It's hard to remember, this of course was several years ago, but there was... Yeah, something happened. Elise left Paris in having been shunned by the doctor and his circle. You see, this is what I'm talking about. It's all just drama. You don't get that sort of thing at the tennis club. And that is why I much prefer tennis to the tarot.
Tell me, does the word Iskalon mean anything to you?
Iskalon?
Might be some of that mumbo-jumbo connected to, that circle you just mentioned.
Yes, probably. I think I heard... Ooh. Did Chantal mention it? Yes, perhaps, but she mentioned an awful lot of things. Hypnosis, the occasional word in Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek, or Greek to me, of course.
Let me try one more thing here. What about someone named Edith Morel? Is that a person that you have come across?
Edith Morel? No, I don't know an Edith Morel. And you can see that he's a little hesitant about this.
Because Coco Chanel basically implied that he had been seen with her. Was that the case?
Yeah, that's right.
And picking up on the fact that he seems to be lying, I sort of lean in closer and I say, you can tell us. You don't have to worry about her, because I look at him, I sort of really drill my eyes into him, and I say, because she's dead.
What do you mean she's dead? When did this happen?
Does he look like, someone has died and therefore I must be, slightly worried? Or is he just, emotionally shocked?
He looks genuinely shocked, as in the sort of the look of someone who's thinking, but I saw her, I saw her just the other week. She seemed fine. That kind of reaction. You can't quite believe that it could have happened so suddenly.
It's been weeks.
And he says, no, but that's impossible. I saw her. Where did it happen? When?
Over at the country house, La Claire Apignon.
I don't see how that's...
What do you mean?
Well, all right. I'll level with you. It's not a story that covers me with glory, but all right. I did know Edith Morel, or rather, I recognised her when I saw her at the cottage. I first knew her as Elise Fournier. But I don't understand. She was here in Paris. I bumped into her at the Ritz just a little while ago, and she didn't intimate to me at all that she had any intention of returning to the... What happened? Was it an accident? Was she killed?
I'll look to the doctor in our team.
I lean forward. Slightly inconclusive at this point in time, but one thing's for sure. She did not pass from this world naturally, no.
Good God. And he stands up and walks and kind of leans. He leans on the wall near his fireplace and looks out of the window and takes a long drag on the cigarette and then drops it into the fireplace. I don't understand. She was ready to leave. She said she was never going to go back there.
Do you have any idea who might have done that to her?
I honestly don't know.
No. For her to be murdered is completely a surprise. There's no one who'd want to murder such a woman as that, and hide it as well, by the way, if not for our, as we've said before, being friends and being wanting to investigate this for our concerns, the body would never have been found, at least not for a much longer period of time.
Well, as I said, she had her disagreements with Dr. Allard's circle. Chantal was no friend of hers, but I don't think Chantal would. And he seems now to be at a real loss for words. The easy, garrulous demeanour has faded away.
You mentioned Dr. Allard has a circle. Where did they often meet? We happen to know, I think we know the address of where he lives, but was that where the meetings took place, at his home or somewhere else?
Yes, he would have a salon every week or so. It was quite the high society event.
Whatever is going on here, it seems as though it's something that people get killed over. And, well, we don't know what's happened to Chantal. Perhaps whoever did this will be coming for her next, or you. Is there anything that you know that you can tell us so that we can put a stop to this? However crazy it might seem, anything will help.
I don't think I know anything. I've been told that enough times. I don't know. But, is there a way I can contact you if need be? Now, that's a slightly dangerous question from him, isn't it?
Well, why don't you pass on your message via David Lenoir? He'll know how to get a hold of us.
Oh, yes, very good. Thank you for coming. I shall send you a message if I discover anything.
Very good.
This is unbelievable. And he sees you to the door, and yes, you can make your way away. And you find yourselves back out, blinking in the sunlight from the lobby of the apartment building on the Rue Bachelet. They're just up the road, where it curves around to the left and goes up the hill towards the Sacré-Cœur. There's the doctor's house. And it does seem more unusual, more out of place in its surroundings than perhaps the first time you saw it. Where do you think you want to go next?
Well, I don't know. Dr. Allard continues to seem to have more and more secrets that I'm starting to think we're not going to get without some drastic measures. But where else could we go? Again, her trail keeps going cold.
Yes. I look to Genevieve. Any ideas?
I think the good doctor here is correct. It seems that a lot of our trails either end in cold water or they end up uncomfortably close to this Dr. Allard. Even the Elise lead, the Edith lead, we thought ended in the water, but it doesn't. It ends, and she looks over at the doctor's house. It's over there.
Yes.
And that's a good point, actually. The timeline doesn't quite add up now.
It really doesn't.
Because if he met Edith at the Ritz, that can't be her in the lake. Because that body was there a long time before Coco Chanel saw the two of them.
Guillaume, he identified Edith Morel, right? I mean, based on... Was it a tattoo or something? Was it?
Yes, a tattoo of a circle and a triangle.
But the body was so decomposed that he couldn't necessarily see that it was her, aside from the tattoo. Was that the case?
Yeah, she had a tattoo and a necklace, right? Like, that's how he identified her.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if it's several weeks of decomposition, then in theory, it could be that someone just happened to have the same tattoo, and if they were part of a group, right?
Yeah, well, Laveau did just mention that someone had the same tattoo, namely Chantal Lenoir.
Necklaces are very easy to replace. When was the last time that anybody actually saw our missing friend? Like, eyes on saw her.
As you're pondering this, you hear the sharp report of 2 gunshots from inside Laveau's apartment building.
Oh, straight in.
Yes.
So you run in, you burst past the concierge who's come out of her little booth, the little thing with the grill that they have, to look up the stairs, and she's running out to the street to call for the police or whoever's around, frankly. And you hear doors opening inside on all the floors and so on, as people look out and down the stairwell to say, "Oh, what's going on down there? And you have to go up a few flights of steps to get back to Laveau's apartment. And sort of there's a bit of a hustle and bustle in the landings as well. You have to elbow your way past a few people, mostly sort of older women who are still at home during a weekday and not out working and that. And yes, when you get there, the front door is unlocked and ajar.
Straight in. If it's open, straight in. Not even hesitating.
Well, in the hallway, yeah. When you go straight in, you see this woman in her 50s. She looks nervous, and she has an automatic pistol in her hand. What do you do, Genevieve? I think you were the first that went in.
I'm going to put my hands up, and if we're in a little hallway, then I'm just going to deliberately move, if it's possible, so that my body is kind of blocking everybody else, so that if someone gets shot, it's only me and not everyone else.
Yeah, it's very noble of you. And she looks at you with fear in her eyes, and she says, "Oh." And I found this. And she looks down at the gun, and she's not really holding it to point it at anyone, it seems. She holds it out for you to take.
Just put it... No, I haven't got a gun. I'm going to very slowly go... And fingerprints don't exist yet, so we're totally fine. Just going to go over and very carefully take the gun from her. If she makes any sudden movements, my hands are going straight back up and I'm standing still.
No, it's all right. She hands it to you with a trembling hand, and upon inspection, you see that this gun is not loaded.
Very carefully put the gun down on the side. If it's unloaded, I don't have to worry about it. Can we see Lervo anywhere around?
You can't see him here. He must be somewhere else. And this older woman, she does sort of indicate with her eyes that you have to go further in. There are more doors for a bedroom and a bathroom, maybe.
Well, seeing that situation take place after having waited a moment and seeing that my companion is safe, I rush past them. I begin searching, saying, Laveau! Laveau!
Yeah, I'm going to carefully maneuver the lady to sit down. I'm not releasing her from the apartment because I don't know if she actually fired or not, but I want her out of the way of the good doctor and the restaurateur to actually have a look around. I want to make sure that she's calm and that we can talk to her when we find out where Laveau is.
I'll follow Terrence inside.
The first room you look inside is the bedroom with double bed, very expensive rug, and a very large mirror over the dressing table. That checks out. And but there's no one in here. But when you go to the bathroom, the shower curtain is drawn. By the wash basin, there's a safety razor and an open tub of shaving cream. On the floor, a set of grey pyjamas, which you're fairly sure at the side, well, the Lavos. He wasn't wearing them before, but maybe he was going to have a nap. There are 2 spent shell cases there, and in the air is the smell of death.
I carefully go towards the shower curtain.
Do you open it?
Yes.
Yes, this is where Laveau is. He's dead, curled up in a ball with the water dripping on him from the shower head, which has washed away the blood from his wound. There's a single bullet hole in his chest, close to his heart. And you're a medical man. It's next to certain that's the direct cause of death. Could you make a ruin roll for me, please, Terrence?
Sadly, I get 3.
Okay, your ruin has increased to 3.
Grim sight indeed. I'll try and keep down the sudden alarm at the situation and try and focus. Bullet wound to the chest, casings on the floor. Where's the gun?
It's here.
Actually, please give me an investigation roll, Terrence, I would say. And
2.
Well, 2 is okay. You gain useful but minimal information. You could re-roll if you want to add your dark die, the ruin die.
I will. That time I get a 4, but the ruin die is a 5.
So, well, you're going to get all of the info, but unfortunately, the dark die adds another 1 to your ruin. That's a pretty quick escalation. Perhaps it's the mental strain of this sudden, unexpected death, like right under your noses as well.
And if there is a killer on the loose, how close are they to us? Maybe there's a sniper on a roof or something. I'm panicking a little.
Well, you don't think there's a sniper on the roof because the bathroom window is sufficiently, so angled that he couldn't have been shot from. Well, not from there. And of course, the shower curtain was closed, and there's no hole in the shower curtain, so that suggests that the killer was right there in the room with him. He was shot with a .32 caliber gun, and you find another hole. I say another. There's one in Laveau. There's one in the wall next to the window where a bullet has gone in. Well, it occurs to you, and perhaps this is what you find disquieting, that Laveau lived by himself, even though he was something of a man about town. He also took frequent trips, and that if you or this neighbourhood lady, Madame Faure, hadn't found him, he might have lain undiscovered here for weeks, much like the woman in the lake. What are the other 2 of you doing? Benoit, what are you doing outside the bathroom?
Well, I'm looking around in the rest of the apartment trying to see if there's any trace of whoever did this. I mean, we were just in there. Either someone came in right after we had left, or they were already in the apartment, or climbed in through a window or something like that. Is there any trace of how someone might have been able to get in?
Oh, let's see. Would you like to give me an investigation roll as well, please?
I roll a 1.
That is minimal. You can, if you don't like that, you can re-roll, or you can, you still get useful information. Just.
Well, let's do another one then. See if that's better. This time it's a 6.
A 6. What about your ruin die?
A 2.
So you poke around a bit. You look in the bedroom, and you see that there was someone in this apartment, at least recently. Probably not while you were there, but there has been someone else in here, because on the bed you see silk heliotrope coloured pyjamas of the type worn by fashionable ladies, and there's sort of impressions, on the pillows that look like both of the pillows have been slept on. And there is the scent of women's perfume in the air. And, you're a fashionable guy, and you just got a 6 on your investigation roll. So you recognise that it is, of course, Pirouette by Dorsey. There is also a woman's handkerchief under one of the pillows. And I know what you're thinking. Is it monogrammed? Of course it is. And it says GF. And it also smells of the same perfume that you can smell in the air. Meanwhile, Genevieve, I suppose you're with this Madame Farr perhaps in the living room where we just spoke to Laveau as well. She looks nervous. She wants to know if she can leave. She doesn't want to. She says she doesn't want to be here when the army or the police show up.
Yeah, or the occupiers.
Yeah.
I just basically want to check that she lives here, so that we're not being conned that this is actually the murderer playing a old lady who has nothing to do with this. So I offer to walk her back to her apartment, if it's in this building.
She says it's not. She says she's actually Laveau's landlady. She'd come to pester him about his rent. He was behind by 2 months. I told him this morning. I sent a message. I would come over to collect, and he didn't answer the door, so I used my own key. And I called out for him when I came in, but there was no answer. I was planning to look around to see if he damaged any of my furniture. And then I found that gun on the floor in the hall.
In the hall? Could you show me where it was when you found it?
Yeah, she takes you out into the hallway and points to a spot on the rug just inside the front door.
Okay, I make a note of where that is so I can tell Terence, so that he can tally up whether that makes a good line between the shot and what happened. Yeah, I kind of as I'm guiding her out and basically letting her loose if she doesn't live in this apartment block, I'm just going to check to see if it looks like other people recognize her as being their landlord. So that, again, we don't let someone go who we should not be letting go.
No one particularly recognises her, it seems. But then she says she's only the landlady of Laveau, so I guess she doesn't collect rent from anyone else.
Taking the scene in, I just feel like we need to go. We need to go now. The police will be here soon. We can't hide that people were here, but at the end of the day, we're just concerned citizens. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're down in the lobby now. Are you going to go past them and act casual? You have another idea.
Any back exits?
There's usually a rattly fire escape.
I'd prefer to exit without getting their attention, yes.
Yeah, alright, so let's do this. Let's have one of you be in charge of leading the way and timing it right so you don't get spotted as you're clambering down the outside of this building.
Well, I only get a free.
You will be pleased to know that I rolled a 1 on my difficulty die. So, would you like to describe your flight from the building and how you make good your escape?
Yeah, we used the landlady leaving as a distraction.
And maybe as that's happening, poor Benoit just walks out of a room, maybe not quite caught up, and I just quickly grab him, like, this way, old fellow!
That sounds right.
And then perhaps we all very quickly make our way out the back, and if you were to see us, you'd think, oh, there's a couple of people exiting very suspiciously, but luckily, the camera pans and all the Gestapo, of course, naturally heading to the front of the building.
Naturally, we are making our way along an alleyway and nobody sees us.
Let's fast forward a little through the passage of time. I think your agents will need to... Well, you've got to walk out of this area, for one thing. Probably want to sit down for a cup of coffee or a bit of a snack to calm down. And...
I think I'm a little lost at this point. Our leads keep getting cut off. I'm very concerned. I say to the others, why kill him? He didn't seem to really know anything, but obviously they assumed he did. Everything keeps leading back to the doctor. I find myself wondering if it's time simply to burst in there in the middle of the night, raid his basement or something, I don't know.
That is certainly an option. I do not know, he must have either seen something or perhaps we are leading people to him.
Well, the timing certainly is strange. Were we followed?
We have been digging up stuff about this Iscolon and following Chantal. If somebody took her, or she is in hiding, or they killed her, the fact that we are poking around, somebody must have spotted us.
Even worse, the assumption now that... Well, now there's a possibility we have already found her, and she's been long dead. Now there's all this talk of people looking very similar, and rivalries within some sort of silly organization. It's all infuriating, I do say.
Yes. If all roads lead back to the doctor, then we need to talk to him again.
I suppose so.
All right, well, you know the place to go. I mean, you'll have to wait a little while for all the fuss to die down outside Laveau's apartment block, but...
I'm gonna be a little bit more paranoid than previously. And yeah, we have like spy training, so we should always be on the lookout, but I'm gonna be super duper on the lookout for people following us or going into places we've just been into. I'll make a bit of a show of just like ducking into a local shop and like maybe perusing something and spending a little bit too long talking to the purveyor and then sneaking out again. I'm gonna be kind of kind of trapping people. I want to see if anyone is specifically following us and following our leads. I'm just gonna keep an eye throughout the day because let's go kick in his door at night, like fuck it.
As it happens, someone is following you. A big man with dusty blonde hair who wears a kind of grey suit with a bedraggled tie and sweats profusely in the heat wave. And but it's just this one guy by the looks of it. He's not the most subtle.
Anyone we've met before?
No. Do you want to try and shake him?
I don't want to shake him. I think we should corner him.
I would be in agreement. As the time passes, let's notice this and I'll be in agreement. Like, let's see if we can lead him down an alleyway. I've got my knife. Time for some talk.
I agree.
So, you can duck into some shadowy side passageway, and sure enough, before long, he follows you, kind of tugging his hat brim down over his eyes as he tries to look inconspicuous, and then when he sees you waiting for him, knives at the ready, he mutters a word under his breath that would be unprintable in a family newspaper, and puts his hands up sort of... not really like reaching for the sky, but just that sort of halfway, I'm not going to make any moves kind of gesture. He says, okay, you got me.
Well, monsieur, who do we have the pleasure of speaking to?
My name is Godin, Eugene Godin. I'm a detective for the Lange. And as a side note, yeah, the Lange are sort of AKA the French Gestapo, so they're sort of like the native auxiliaries of the German secret police. And yeah, he says, listen, it's gonna be more trouble than it's worth for you to do anything to me. So maybe I'll just go my way, and you guys go your way.
Well, that's all well and good, but why are you following us, sir? Here we are, just trying to conduct business in the city of Paris, and suddenly we notice a strange gentleman like yourself following us. Specifically, I noticed you following my fine sister here.
Well, listen, the reason I'm following you is because I was assigned to do it. It's my job. Because you're spies.
No?
Spies?
Yeah, spies.
Step forward. And what proof do you have of that, monsieur?
We have informers in your ranks.
I try and read the man. Obviously, I don't doubt he is who he says he is. But on that note, is that a bluff or genuine, yes, we know everything about you?
That seems genuine, but he's also holding out on something. Like, you noticed, Genevieve, when he was following you, he was not very kind of cool and collected, right? So if he looked like he was losing you, he would panic a bit and get all flustered, which is not the attitude of a man who's just kind of cashing his paycheck, who, presumably, if he lost you, would just kind of go back to the office and wait till somebody told him to go pick you up some other place, if possible, right? So he's more invested in following you than really makes sense.
You seem awfully dedicated to your job, and I don't think that is why you are following us quite so intently, is it?
Alright. The real reason, well, you're my assignment, okay, that's true. But also you're mixed up with my Elise, and I need to find her, and I could see you were crossing her path, so that's why I'm following you.
You're Elise?
Yeah, we were married, but she ditched me. I'm a real sap, though. I'd do anything for her anyway.
So you make up false allegations against us, when really it's all about, yes, us being concerned for a friend, that's why we're actually here. And, well, the stuff we've been starting to put together, it seems there's something going on. They could have harmed our friend and maybe your individual as well. Didn't need to make up all this stuff about spies.
Come on, we both know that's not made up.
What do you know about the whereabouts of your Elise, then, if you're so keen to follow her?
It's... well, you know, when people split up, they don't always... She made it a clean break, but then I had a chance, right? Recently, I had a chance to find her again, right? She wanted to ditch that Morel guy that she married. She needed help, okay? And, she wrote to her old, like, that weird guru, the doctor.
Allard.
She wanted money. Yeah, that guy. He sent me up to talk to her for him. Yeah, no, she was part of this occult group he was involved with. She was desperate to rejoin it. And then, like, I went down to meet her, but then I didn't find her.
When was the last time you saw her or communicated with her?
It's been a few years, honestly. I was, I didn't get sent to the front because police work's what do they call it? A vital role. I stayed here in Paris, but yeah, there was just a whole mess with her and the splitting up with the doctor, and he kind of kicked her out of his circle, and then that would have been 38, 39. A lot of water's gone under that bridge by now. I don't remember too clearly.
I look to my two associates, and look back at this man, and I just quietly say, well, seems like we're at a little bit of a crossroads. See, on one hand, there's a road where we continue our investigations. Maybe we find Elise, maybe we even help her, and maybe you help someone you claim to care about. Or there's the route of spies and people being arrested for being spies, and the investigation coming to an end, and who knows what then happens to your Elise. I suppose the question, sir, is quite simple. Do you care more for your Elise or for the bastards who are occupying your country?
Here's my card. If you find anything, you can send me a message. 84 Avenue, Foch. And he hands you a slightly crumpled card with a little crest on it, that's sort of official looking. And he backs away and turns and walks outside around the corner into the main street.
I swear profusely under my breath.
Yes. Well, we'd better try to get some ways away from here. You never know if he's going to call someone else. But this is bad. This is really bad.
It is extremely bad. I'm afraid to say I think we have our mission is now timed.
I agree. He could turn on us at any moment. If we don't get him the right information, or perhaps this is just an elaborate ruse of his. I guess we go talk to Dr. Allard once again, and we do it now.
Yes.
Agreed. Dr. Allard, whatever means we need to take. And then, depending on what we find, I think our little mission here is over, and I'm so sorry, Benoit, but you might need to think of being extracted as well, at this rate.
Well, certainly would hope that doesn't come to that. But all right, let's go see the doctor and see if we can put a stop to this, whatever it is.
All right. You return to the house as the evening shadows lance from the roofs of the buildings and cover Rue Bachelet entirely in darkness, in fact. And there's no answer when you knock at the door or ring the doorbell.
In that case, time to enter. Ideally as subtly as possible, but, well, we can't let a locked door stop us now.
No, and I think I won't require any rolling for that. We know you're skilled in spy stuff, which includes lockpicking, so you can do that. Oh, but do you want to go in the front door, or...?
Preferably, because then it looks way less suspicious.
And yes, you go inside. Everything is dark. Do you happen to have a torch on you?
I don't see why one of us wouldn't have brought one flashlight.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Everything is silent in here. The beam of light from your torch illuminates dust in the air. There's the smell of, old books, an old carpet, maybe a sort of tang of something acrid and chemical in the air.
Should we attempt the basement first, or the lower levels?
I think we should call out for Dr. Allard first. And if he doesn't respond, then we can either search from the bottom up or from the top down.
I nod in agreement.
Agreed.
All right.
Dr. Allard? Hello? And we got the name of the butler last time, right? But I personally don't remember it.
Sachs, I think.
Yeah, I'll call out for him too.
Yes. But as perhaps you expected, or perhaps hoped, I'm not sure, there's no response. Everything is silent. What do you do?
I look to my companions. I guess the question is, do we methodically search from the top down or from the bottom up?
I always prefer bottom up myself, and I'll immediately head and just start searching. There is little subtlety now. Again, I'm concerned that our mission is soon coming to an end, and, well, finally the time has come to leave one house a bit wrecked, so what?
There was a basement, right? So if we're going to search from the bottom up, we should head to the basement first.
You head down the steps, the wooden steps that creak a little. There's the only light down here is, of course, what you bring with you. There is a single electric bulb hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, does this guy have any, like, candles or any other torches around before we enter the spookily dark basement with only one light source?
You might grab a candle or two from the kitchen. So the basement is... that's not huge, but I guess it's pretty big, about sort of 8 meters by 8, and you're coming down into one corner of it. In the middle of the room is a table. Well, a table. It most looks like a sort of examination table, like you might find in a hospital or a science lab or something. And there is the body of a man lying on it, partially covered with a cloth. And in the centre of the wall opposite the stairs, so the other side of this table, is a low sandstone platform. And there are several objects, what look like jars and something silver, sitting on top of that little platform.
I begin trying to search the room thoroughly. I'm not that interested in what's in a strange jar or even what these objects are, because to me it's all irrelevant. A possible occult mumbo-jumbo. I'm here to find clues, anything about papers, notes, that sort of thing.
You said there was a body on the table?
I did say there was a body on the table.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look at that.
Alright, and what about Benoit?
Yes, I will keep a lookout to see, just make sure that we're not being... There's no one waiting to ambush us in here. So yeah, some kind of overwatch.
Could I have an investigation roll each for Genevieve and for the good doctor? One of you inspecting the body and the other one investigating the room in general.
4.
A very competent success. And for Genevieve?
6.
Could you please make a ruin roll for me?
4.
Well, you're already on 4, so your ruin will stay the same. So the grisly sight that you discover leaves you relatively unscathed. So on this examination table, you see the body of a man, pale and balding, still wearing a quite well-cut suit, and braced on this workbench that it's actually at a sort of odd angle, like 45 degrees, like it's been tilted up. And when you get close enough, you recognise this man. It's Sax, the butler. And the top of his skull has been sawn away, and his brain has been removed. Inside, where his brain used to be, at the base of that cavity, is an unnatural concave lattice of a material like bone, but sort of grey-green in colour, smooth though. And below that lattice, something dark pulses slowly, as if alive. On the other side of the room, Dr. Hoover. Well, you realise that on the wall to the right of where you come down from the staircase, you realise that there's a false wall, although it's not exactly false, it is made with bricks, but it's recent brickwork. Like someone's put up a partition to wall off a space within this basement. And you can, when you put your hand on it, you can feel that it shifts a little. It's not too sturdy. You could make your way through it if you had the necessary tools, and if you didn't mind making a little bit of noise and making a little bit of a mess.
At this point, I certainly don't. I'm going to try and find anything I can to try and begin working on this wall, and perhaps I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing that I don't really pay as much attention as I should to the strange corpse on the table, at least unless someone directs me to it. But I'm keen to get this hallway open.
But I'm just gonna keep walking slowly and quietly backwards without looking at all what I may or may not be bumping into, and I'm just gonna keep walking backwards until I hit a wall, and I'm just gonna stand there.
That's a very fair reaction. So you watch as Dr. Hoover finds, I'm sure down here there'll be some hammers or miscellaneous house tools, and you can grab one and just really start whacking at the bricks, and he does make a tremendous amount of noise. By the way, the other two, I think Benoit may be concerned about this, but would you try and stop him, or will you just hope that he gets it over?
If I see that he's starting to work on the wall, then I'm gonna go to help him. I mean, he's making so much noise. He's already made so much noise that we're not gonna be able to keep this hidden. But if we move quickly, perhaps we can get what we need and then get out of here. So, yes, I will grab a tool myself as well, and I'll go and stand right next to him and keep whacking away at that wall.
I'm gonna choose to continue to be completely useless, and I'm not moving unless someone talks to me. I'm just transfixed staring at this corpse. If I see it breathe, if I see its mouth open, I'm gonna scream, but I'm just watching this thing. I'm not interacting unless someone literally comes over and shakes me.
The two of you, Benoit and Terence, are, you make short work of this wall. It was just essentially it's almost a fake wall made of like one line of bricks, and as they collapse inwards and you have a hole big enough to stick your heads and shoulders in to see and play the torchlight around, you find that behind this wall, in this little crawl space, is another body. This one at least is breathing, sleeping, on his back. It's Dr. Allard. He looks emaciated, dehydrated, and he has clutched to his chest a book, a kind of hardback, navy blue book. But he seems to be fast asleep, despite all the noise and mess you've just made.
What in God's name? I lean down, I try and check for a pulse, and if I find one, as you said, if he just seems to be sleeping, I'll try and wake the man, knife kind of nearby, like... Dr. Allard! Dr. Allard, wake up!
He does have a pulse. It's slow, faint, but it's there. He looks like he hasn't, eaten. I mean, it's the body of a starving man, basically. And he doesn't wake when you call his name, or even if you jostle him or push him roughly.
One hard slap.
The good hard slap resounds around the room. But he remains steadfastly slumbering.
I start searching his person. One book, anything else?
The book is the thing that he has. He is dressed in comfortable clothes, the kind of thing you might wear around the house, or as if you were going to have a nap. The book is entitled The Hypnos Codex, and it looks very old indeed. I mean, it's still a bound book, so it's not that old, but it perhaps has several decades of wear and tear on it.
I look at the book, I look to Benoit, I just say, God damn it! None of this makes any sense! What on earth is going on here?
I don't know. What do we do?
I suppose at this point I'll stand up and finally now we'll see that corpse and now probably would go over and see all the things poor Genevieve has seen and look to her, just be like, it's a madhouse, an absolute madhouse.
I think it's alive.
What? Alive?
I point at the corpse and I say, his brain, it's gone, but there's something alive in there.
What?
I'll attempt to feel for a pulse on this individual, saying, no, my dear, I assure you, he can't, this poor soul can't still be alive. They can't.
There is no pulse, but when you look into the brain pan, you do see that same moving thing that Genevieve saw as well. But Genevieve, you see something. Oh, and that'll be a ruin roll for you, by the way, Doctor.
So my ruin is free. I rolled a 2.
Yeah, you are a very cool customer. But Genevieve, you see, as your companion inspects the body, is. You're sure it is starting to move.
Be careful, it's moving.
I look to my companions. I look to the strange thing I am seeing. I'm full of frustration. And I have tools in my hand. I'm going to try and extract the thing in his brain.
Genevieve's right, you know. It is moving. The body lurches upright from the waist up. It starts to grab at you, Terence. Its movements are uncoordinated and sort of mechanical, and yet, as you might imagine, quite monstrous. It's the kind of jerking movement that you might make if you had no concern for the condition of your body. You know, like you might twist an arm or strain a muscle or, you know, break or sprain something with such violent, sudden motions. And yet that's how it moves at you.
Well, I mean, in that case, as I was about to try and chisel it in the head anyway, as it gets up, I'll continue. But just, obviously, now in a more combative stance. I'm going to try and smash it in the head, where it's, I assume, is weak. And as it gets up, I'll say to the others, like, quick! We need to take it down, or we need to retreat!
I think this has shooken me out of my stupor, and I'm gonna... You said there were hammers and shit around. I'm just gonna grab a hammer, and I'm just gonna go help my Notter brother ruin this thing.
Yes. And I too have the tools that I was using to bust the wall, so I'll just get right on that unholy thing, whatever it is. It's not right. It's not supposed to be like this. It has to be put back to sleep.
Yeah, and, well, excitingly, I think that means we're going to have our first use of the fight roll in this scenario. So, whenever you try to solve your problems through violence, the following rules apply. So first you'll say how you expose yourself to injury or attack, which I think is fairly straightforward, but let's each do that. So, we'll take turns, and then you roll a single dark die and leave it on the table, because the number that you have there is your weak point, and it represents the risks you're taking. So, because multiple characters are involved, you'll each roll your own die. So, let's start then with Dr. Terence Hoover. How are you exposing yourself to risk? And then please tell us what you get on your d6.
Well, I think I'm probably exposing myself to risk by attempting to engage this thing in melee. I'm trying to aim for the head, but obviously if I miss or something goes wrong, I'll be very close to the creature, very easy to grab or throw or pummel.
Yes, I think I agree. So please roll your weak point for us.
4.
4. Okay, leave that where it lies. For Genevieve, please, how are you putting yourself in harm's way?
Can I be a real dick and say, because I'm not particularly caring so much about my own personal safety, that I'm not paying attention to where anyone else is swinging their weapons? So if I get hit, it's one of you guys. I just think it'd just be kind of weird and cool. If you guys are alright with that.
Sure, yes.
Alright, so let's have your d6 roll, please.
3.
Noted restaurateur, somewhat out of his normal milieu, Benoit. How are you exposing yourself to risk?
I mean, just by doing something like this that I've never done before. I mean, I barely do a lot of... I mean, this kind of busting down the wall even, that was way different from the kind of stuff I normally do. So I'm at great risk of injuring myself from using these tools.
Yeah, I agree. Alright, let's have your d6 roll, please.
That is a 4.
Okay, so you have the same number as Terence, and that's relevant because I'll just briefly explain how this works. So, what happens next is each player with a character involved in the conflict rolls another die. I think in this case maybe I'll just roll the 3d6 for you and we can see how it comes out. And to defeat an enemy, you need to roll against the enemy's endurance. I'll give the behind the scenes away a little here and say that this body of sacks has an endurance of 6. That can be reduced if you're using like specific skills or like taking maybe a risk roll to do so, but I think in this case there's no need to quite get so elaborate. And if the total of the 2 highest dice that you roll is equal to or higher than the endurance, then the enemy is defeated in the manner that we as a group describe. However, if any of the dice is the same as your weak point number, your character's ruin will go up by 1 for every die that matches that weak point. So in other words, if there are only 4s in this thing I roll now, both Terence and Benoit are going to be harmed. And if you don't defeat the enemy, you can, of course, try and retreat, which may not always be the easiest thing to do. Or you can keep trying and you add another die to the pool and you leave your weak points the same and you have another go. So you can see that as the fight goes on, you're kind of, the odds of you not taking any increased ruin go down. So with that in mind, I'm going to roll my 3 dice and let's see how it goes. I have bad news, gentlemen. I've rolled a 4. But that's 2/3 of the way to defeating this thing. So let's see. Now the second die is a 1, which is not helpful. Let's see what we get next. The third die is a 2, which is excellent. That means you've succeeded in defeating whatever this thing is with a 6, which is equal to its endurance. But both of our agents who have a 4 as their weak point will increase their ruin by 1, which means that Terence, you are now on 5, and Benoit, you're on 4. And Terence, you can start to reduce that ruin by taking selfish actions that jeopardize the mission, just for your reference. Yes, well, so how do you, let's see, how do you kind of beat this creature into immobility? How do you dispatch it?
Well, obviously I get in my first good hit, hitting it damn hard on the head as it reels back. However, as it does so, it proceeds to grab me and throw me across the room, and I crash into a corner.
Running over as I grab a tool and I see my not a brother being thrown past me as I go over. I'm just gonna get rid of all decorum and I'm just gonna jump over there and wrap my arm through underneath kind of where the armpit is and basically just hold it back like a bunch of kids bullying someone, so it can no longer lurch forward too much more and provide hopefully a good opportunity for Benoit to get a good hit in.
I've never done anything like this, but with the help of my friends, that this opportunity to move in and give it a hard bash with the hammer that I have, it's presented to me and I take it and I move real close and, well, something bad happens, right? I guess I kind of start losing it a little bit also. I just keep thwacking away, perhaps even when it's stopped moving.
When I feel it go completely limp and you're still smashing at it, I'm just going to be like, it's okay. And I will let it fall to the floor. It's over. I'm just going to go over and very gently put my hands on either side of your arms and just it's okay. It's over.
and I'll, sweat is running down my face and I suppose I'm covered in blood now.
Yeah, me too.
You might want to deal with that before you go outside. Well, that's true. How are you going to get from here to somewhere safe? Where are you going to go? I think you guys need to sit down and take stock briefly.
Well, as I get up, I listen. Do I think our disturbances have... What about the rest of the house? We might still have been able to find something, because otherwise I feel like we found evidence of some nightmare, but not necessarily evidence that leads us to our missing agent.
Well, you have found the codex, which is of some value by the looks of it.
Is the book written in French or German?
This is a French translation, yes, of a Greek original, apparently, but this is in French. And do you know where? I don't know if you would consider this too risky, or if Benoit would consider this too risky, but perhaps his place, or the kitchen, or the back room at the restaurant might be a. If you don't fancy going back to the safe house, that might be a good place to sit down and look at what you found and figure things out.
I think that sounds fair, yes. I mean, we know that the safe house is, well, the French Gestapo, they have eyes there, so perhaps the restaurant is the safest place.
Very well then. I frown, not quite satisfied, but I guess, yes, we made so much noise here that maybe it is time to leave.
I think, yeah, we can shift the scene then to our heroes in Yeah, actually, I think it makes sense for it to be maybe not the kitchen, that's going to be too busy, but perhaps the break room, or even, do you have a separate office at the restaurant, Benoit?
Yes. So we'll do it in my office then.
Yes, by the light of a Tiffany lamp or something, something suitably Art Deco, and you can leaf through this book, and so there are a couple of things that jump out at you, namely that you see some references in this book, which is it is as terrorists might say, a whole load of mumbo jumbo. And it is about rituals that one can perform in order to essentially astrally project while asleep. And it makes reference to the practice of Italian sort of folk magic group from the north of the country called the Benandanti, who, according to their legends, would fly on stalks of grain in their dreams to do battle against evil witches called Strege, who would threaten the crops of their villages and so on. Naturally, this was not taken universally well by the rest of the community of the time, and they were often investigated and denounced as witches themselves. And it expands on this to talk about magical workings that one can do to achieve a similar effect, to travel onerically, and even locate people and appear to them in their dreams, or even harm them if you want to do it. These invocations and these ritual wordings include a few terms that seem familiar to you. There are several references to the Philistine city in biblical times called Ashkelon, and in some places there's a note that the Greek original renders this as Iskalon. And there's a more personal feature as well, which is that the frontispiece of this book has an ex libris stamp which has Dr. Allard's name on it, but also some later owners or borrowers have scribbled their names in pencil on that page as well. And one of them is Chantal Lenoir. So at some point, she had this book in her possession.
As the three of us go over all this, finding out all this, I take a stiff drink from your cupboard, Benoit, possibly without you actually allowing me to. I help myself. I just say, well, that's all fascinating. A whole bunch of nonsense. Fortunately, it seems to me that unless one of you two, I don't know, what's that? You said something about you can find people with the magical book. Well, if you want to do that, Albeen, maybe you can, but otherwise I think our mission's come to an end. And by that I mean that we have to report back that we have to assume Agent Chantal has been killed. Possibly not by the regime, but by this group of mad people.
And we would have to report it outside of Paris because our network is compromised.
Yes.
The thing is, if one of our own has gone missing, we should do everything we can to try and find them. And this might be a load of nonsense, but if it isn't, we can't truly say we tried everything if we didn't try everything. So...
What exactly did it say again in that section? What's the magic spell for finding someone again?
In their dreams and locating them? I mean, we could try it. The worst that would happen is literally nothing happens.
Yeah, why not? You're right. We've got nothing to lose.
Exactly. Nothing to lose. We're gonna have to take a few hours before we leave the city anyway. We could sleep or we could try.
I look very skeptical, but then I shrug, take another drink, look out the window. Well, whatever, I suppose. I assure you, It's going to be a waste of time, but I suppose you're right. Who knows? Who knows? Some things tonight haven't made sense. All right, then. Well, what do we have to do, then?
The invocation of Hypnos requires a minimum of 2 participants. A sort of spellcaster, if you will, and a traveller. The traveller lies asleep, which could be natural sleep or through sedation, in the centre of a carefully prepared ritual circle, while the caster performs the chants that are provided in this text. And if it works, the traveller will go into this so-called dream realm of the universal subconscious. And, well, if it works, then you can try and find a particular person.
Is this a carefully prepared ritual circle that we could do in this office, or is it this needs to be sanctified over 400 days and therefore we're going to have to go back to Dr. Erlard's basement?
No, it's you can essentially draw it. It's your classic kind of chalk magic circle with particular symbols in it and so forth. And yeah, I reckon you could roll back that rug in the middle of the office. The wooden floorboard should take the chalk okay. So yeah, you could do it.
I suppose the question is, who's going to go to sleep and who's going to read the magical intonations?
I look over at Benoit. I think at least you, Dr. Hoover, should make sure that either one of us are safe. Watch out, make sure nobody interrupts us, keeps our body safe.
Sleeping doesn't sound hard. I can do that.
All right, then, I suppose, Genevieve, you are skilled in these things. I sort of laugh.
My eyes go a little bit wide, like, yeah, there's apparently something in the bloodline. Oh, crap.
All right, then. Well, I'll start securing the perimeter. You start drawing circles on the floor. If we're going to do this, then let's get it done and get it done proper.
I agree. I would, however, very much like a very quick stiff drink before we start this.
I've been helping myself to the stuff Benoit has. It's pretty good, Benoit. What is it?
Well, it's only the finest cognac. It's the occupiers love it.
Then that's even more reason to drink it and make sure they don't get it.
Make your preparations. Benoit, are you going to take some kind of medication to make yourself sleep?
I don't think I will be able to fall asleep naturally. It's quite a stressful job that I have, so sleeping pills is something that I have available for me. It's living with what I have to live with, living with, having to entertain all these Nazis. It makes it difficult to sleep. So I've procured some sleeping pills. So take one of those.
So you fall asleep. You drift off to the unusual but not unmelodious sound of Genevieve reciting a litany in Greek. And soon you are asleep and dreaming. In no particular landscape, or, well, perhaps there is, but you know what dreams are like. Later, if somebody asks you about it, you'll struggle to say anything specific. But rooftops, perhaps, and a city darkened beneath your feet. Now, in order to find a particular person or place mechanically, that requires a risk roll, and it is always hazardous to your mind. So in other words, you must include your dark die. Who would you like to find, or where would you like to go?
And we've of course talked about this before we start. So the one that we're looking for is Elise, right? Edith. 6 on the light die and 3 on the dark die.
So we'll go with that 6 on your white die. And of course that does trigger a ruin roll for you. So if you could quickly make that, and you're looking for 4 or less in order to take this in stride.
Unfortunately, I roll a 6.
Ooh. Well, your ruin increases to 5. What do you think may have happened? Is there some kind of hideous sensation or nightmarish imagery that assails your mind that causes this?
Yes.
Or is it,
I think it's what we just did. It's the memories, the feeling of the blood splattering on my face as I'm bashing at this undead thing. It's something I cannot forget. It's something that's going to keep on haunting me, and it certainly is very, very strong right now.
You focus on Elise, the person of Elise, and you follow your senses, some kind of instinct, and you drift across the lightless, hazy city, eastwards, away from the river. Yes, for sure it's Paris, although as you drift it begins to change and illuminate, something like a wireframe diagram of itself, and you recognize places, buildings that are now long gone. It's like a Uchronia of the city, with in the distance the Bastille, which of course has long been torn down by the 1940s, and more humble shops that you recognise perhaps from your childhood that are, in the waking world, are merely memories. And you pass over this glowing life-size model and find yourself passing through the window into an unremarkable apartment in a middle-class part of the town, and looking at a sleeping figure. And this is Elise. But there's something more here as well, that you've connected to something deeper. You're able to almost perceive her dreams, her own memories, as she processes them. And so you see that this is Elise. This is also Edith. You also see her being Chantal. Not for real, like not in disguise, but sending a telegram with a little smirk on her face to David Lenoir. But speaking of disguises, you also see her memory of changing her face to become a smallish 50-something woman who claimed to be Christophe Laveau's landlady shortly after she shot him. Do you want to delve further and see further back? What do you want to do?
Yes. Just give it all to me.
You see her at the cottage, approaching Chantal. You realise that Chantal never really figured out who she was. Perhaps that makes her angrier. Chantal didn't know that this was the same woman she'd laughed at in Paris. And you see that book, the Hypnos Codex. Chantal has it. Elise wants it. She wants to use it as a bargaining chip. Bring it to the doctor. And so, one evening, when there's no one else around, down by the water, she takes a rock and she beats Chantal Lenoir to death with it, and pushes her into the lake, and does what she can to cover the body with that old rowing boat that was lying around and the debris that she can find. You realise as well that you're right here. She's sleeping. You're in her dreams, although she hasn't herself passed into the land of dreams just yet. You could just reach out and put your hand into her head and harm her. You could close your fingers and squeeze, and it would certainly do something.
Yes, she has to pay for what she's done. She killed Chantal. She's some kind of monster. I don't know how I do it, but I'm still filled with rage from that thing I had to destroy back there. And now I have a chance to hurt the one that's behind all of this. I'll do that. I'll try to make sure that she doesn't wake up. Ever.
What does it feel like? As in, the sensation of touch. What does it feel like when you close your hand inside there?
It feels like I'm holding something very, very brittle. Like one of those expensive decorations that my mother never let me touch. The ones on the top shelf. The one that once I took it down, I wasn't supposed to, and because it was so beautiful. And I squeezed it too hard and it cracked into all these small, sharp pieces. And mother was furious with me for what I'd done. And that's exactly how this feels. Like something brittle, beautiful, that I'm now going to destroy.
Genevieve and Terence, you are looking at the sleeping form of Benoit Beaufort, and he jerks in a kind of spasm, a hypnagogic jerk, like that sensation, when you get that sensation of falling shortly before you fall asleep. It's that kind of lurching movement, and he makes a strange noise, something like a rasping groan.
Is this anything the book might have prepared us for?
Not really. Do you want to wake him?
Well, having stepped out of the room and stepped back in a few times, at this point I go, all right, sorry, that looks like enough to me. Let's get him up, and I'll try and get him into a position where he can breathe and see if I can rouse him.
Yeah. If everything has been going smoothly up to this point, I'm already on tenterhooks because magic's real and this is uncool. So I'm just gonna we'll get him sat up and we'll help Benoit to wake up.
All right, Benoit, you're awake. Back in your office, your friends are here. I would like you to make one more ruin roll, please.
That is a 2.
Your ruin remains at 5. They're looking at you like they're waiting for you to say something.
I found her. She was behind it all. She's the one who killed Chantal. For this book. I heard her, though. I was in her dreams. I don't think she's gonna wake up.
I see. Why do you think she was behind it all? What does that mean? Was she working for the...
I saw her dreams. I relay everything that I saw there, as best as I can remember it. That must mean that she's the one behind it all, right?
I mean, if what you saw is true, possibly Oh dear. Not going to like that in the briefing room.
I do not know how we will explain this, but... Okay.
I think you will have to consider how you're going to get back as well. There's supposedly a way for you to call a plane to pick one of you up, but that doesn't help the other two. But I think perhaps we can leave that as an imagined adventure for another time. And if you're all agreeable, I think we could move to the aftermath now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in the aftermath, in a moment, I will ask each of you to give us a scene, or perhaps just a little summary of events that happened to your agent after the events of this adventure. Maybe after the war, maybe not. But to give you a bit of time to think about that, I'd like to go through the epilogues for some of the historical people that you met during all this. So let's start with Agent Denise, who took care of you at the safe house. Her real name was Andre Borel, and she was interrogated at the Gestapo's Paris headquarters after being arrested, and then held in Freyne prison until May 1944, when she was moved to the Natzweiler Struthof concentration camp in the Alsace. On the 6th of July 1944, aged 24, Andre Borel was killed. She was given a lethal injection of phenol and then incinerated. However, she regained consciousness before being placed into the cremation oven and fought to escape. And ultimately she was put into the flames while she was still alive. She was posthumously awarded the Croix de Guerre. Agent Madeline, the communications officer at the safe house, her real name was Noor Inayat Khan, and she was betrayed to the Germans either by Agent Gilbert or the sister of another SOE agent, and in October 1943 she was arrested and interrogated at the SS headquarters on Avenue Foch. She was taken to Germany in November 1943 and imprisoned in complete secrecy and solitary confinement for 10 months before she was moved to the Dachau concentration camp. In the early hours of the 13th of September she was executed with a single gunshot to the back of the head. Noor Inayat Khan was posthumously awarded a British George Cross and a French Croix de Guerre. Joseph Kiefer was reassigned after the Normandy invasion and was in command of troops who murdered 37 prisoners of war in July 1944, including 3 hospitalised captives who were executed by lethal injection. Tried for and found guilty of war crimes after the war, Kiefer was executed by hanging at Hamelin Prison in 1947. Coco Chanel faced controversy due to her association with the Nazi regime during the war, but staged a successful comeback in the fashion industry in the 1950s. After the war, interrogation of German officials found that Henri Dericourt, Agent Gilbert, had passed information to German intelligence, leading to the arrest and execution of numerous SOE agents. At his trial in 1948, a number of witnesses were unavailable, and a senior SOE officer testified that he had authorised Dericourt to maintain contact with the Germans, and Dericourt was acquitted. He was believed killed in an aircraft accident in November 1962 in Southeast Asia. His body was never found. So let's then go to the epilogues for... Well, let's start with Terence, please.
The escape from Paris and Germany that time certainly was a close one. But we made it. I made it, at least. I was never quite sure what to make of this mission. Project Escalon. Didn't find out what that was in the end, not truly. The things I saw I cannot explain. Quite frankly, I didn't really want to. I didn't really believe my associate Benoit, but maybe it didn't matter. If the matter was dealt with, the matter was dealt with, and as I said, I was pretty sure that whatever had happened, poor Agent Chantal had fallen prey not to, well, the enemy, but to some strange personal matter. quite frankly, it was all rather confusing. There were a few more missions, of course. A few more scrapes. We didn't all make it. But one day I was able to walk, enjoy a glass of wine, and return to France in better times. I was proud of what I did for my country. And while sometimes I would think of those strange nights, the strange events, at least I could feel, well, maybe we put a stop to them somehow. Maybe. Again, I was never quite sure.
Thank you. Genevieve, please, I think.
Yeah. Unlike my esteemed colleague, I did want to know what happened. I didn't want to know the reasons for the things that we saw and understand them, and I quite selfishly keep the book for myself. I do not share this with this potential weapon on either side, and she probably only goes back to the French countryside once to visit her daughter and never again, because she realises how dangerous her path is. And she continues to study this book and everything to do with Escalon and the involvement of the Allards in what is going on. And she basically devotes a lot of her life to understanding the occult and to fighting it where she can. Although, on occasion, she definitely dabbled for selfish reasons. She would spend most of her time reading, studying, practicing, and checking in on her two companions from this very weird mission that they were on. And once the war was over, she devoted herself to studying the occult. But she tried to keep a low-ish profile.
Fascinating, thank you. And finally, what happens to Benoit Beaufort?
Well, I was haunted by the memories of, well, that thing that we saw there in the basement and what I did to that. And my dream journey. What I saw there and what I did there. These were things that I couldn't really shake. The sleeping pills came in handy, and I relied more and more on them. And it helped. It helped me sleep. Because I had to keep up appearances. I had to keep the restaurant going. I had to keep serving the occupiers. I had to keep it all going until the day when Paris was finally freed. And I was so happy that the day had finally come. That everything I'd worked for, all the sacrifices that had been made, that it was finally all going to be worth it. And in the chaos that ensued, well, not everyone knew that I was an agent. And some people decided that collaborators had to be punished. And I was dragged out by a mob and killed. And that was the end of Benoit Beaufort.
Well, thank you all very much for the game. Let's end it there.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play Porcupine Publishing's City of Light. Joining us as our game master is the game's creator, Tom McGrenery, and we were also joined by Volonda from Blighthouse Studio. You can hear more of her on their Call of Cthulhu actual play, The Sprouting, and the D&D actual play, The Lucky Die. The music was made by Phonotech and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, and Lily for their generous support. And you'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay bonus campaign, Rough Nights and Hard Days, as well as bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Call of Cthulhu there. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that Paris will be freed.